Hello and welcome to the first session of Peeking Outside the Bubble. These are going to be a set of conversations that I have with people I have met during my training. And as you, I'm a postdoc here at NCBS. And one of the things that I somewhat resent is the complete lack of knowledge about what I could do with a PhD outside academia. And so I'd really like that to change for students and postdocs right now, PhD students and postdocs. Right at the moment, because these are my acquaintances, it's mostly people in biology. But later on, hopefully we'll get more people on board to, have this kind of conversation. And so it's important that we actually find out about what opportunities there are outside academia. Please feel free to participate in this discussion right here, or you can tweet us at bubble peaking, and the hashtag is hashtag peaking outside the bubble. Also, you can email us, and then we'll take into account those suggestions. So that's what these conversations are going to be like. At the very outset, I'm going to thank the NCBS, the communications office at NCBS for letting this happen, and Somdatta at CCMB, who's also been liaising with us to spread the word about these things. And so let's start. We have with us today Hari Padmanabhan. All of these people are PhDs, so I'll just say Hari Padmanabhan instead of doctor, right? He and then we have Cheryl Travasso and Deepti Trivedi, and I will ask them to tell us what they're doing at the moment. Hari, do you want to start?
Thanks, Dhananjay, for the opportunity to speak here. Yeah. I was. So you want to speak about like what I do right now, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a scientist at a biotech called CRISPR Therapeutics. So as the name suggests, it works on CRISPR. It was founded by one of the co-discoverers, Emmanuel Charpentier, and the company has been in existence for about 6 years now. And we have both ex vivo and in vivo therapeutic strategies, one for blood disorders, other for liver and neuromuscular. So I am a scientist in the in vivo side of it. And I've been with CRISPR for about 4 years now and learning a lot of new things. So as as Dhananjay said, as Dhananjay said, like it's moving out was a big step for me, but after that I realized that there are a lot of things out there. So I really welcome the opportunity to share what I know.
Thanks, Hari. Cheryl, could you tell us what you're doing these days?
So, hi, my name is Cheryl, as Dhananjay said. I'm an associate vice president in the health sector at a public relations company called Edelman. I work in India, but Edelman is all over the globe. My work involves content creation, content planning, strategy, creative ideation across health sectors. So it could be pharma, it could be hospitals, it could be medical devices, diagnostics, anything in that realm. So it's been interesting getting here. I didn't know that this career existed when I started. I didn't know this career existed even 4 years ago when I was in the middle of it, but I'm quite happy to be where I am.
That's awesome, and we'll hear more about that. And Deepti, could you tell us what you do?
Hi. So I think I am the closest to academia as compared to the two of them, because I work at an academic research institute, and I work at a facility which provides support to the academicians. So this is a Drosophila facility. So we generate different kind of mutants and transgenics and so on, and provide basically any kind of support that is required, scientific support that is required for a Drosophila researcher, which can include starting from transgenics to CRISPR to whatever new genetic technologies that are that can be of interest to the academic academicians.
Right. So just for the audience to know, these people are being extremely modest. They, like Hari is one of the best informed analytical minds I've known throughout my training. Cheryl is equally amazing. You topped in MSc, no? You got a gold medal or something.
Yeah, something like that.
No joke, yeah. And Deepti is one of the most valuable resources to the Indian Drosophila community. So with that, they're really doing cool things. But now we're going to step back in time to 10, 15 years ago, say at the starting of your PhD. Can you tell us what you were working on then, what your aspirations were then? And we can go in the reverse order this time. Deepti, would you like to tell us?
Yeah, so even before starting, because my research career did not start with PhD actually, so I thought I'll just step back a little bit even further back. So I did my master's with Professor Obaid Siddiqui at NCBS, and that's when I got the first glimpse of research. And that is when Obaid was working on Drosophila olfaction, and that's the project which I was doing with him. Following that, I went to University of Cambridge for a PhD on Gates Cambridge scholarship, where I chose to work with Raghu Padinjat, who has actually moved now to NCBS. So I interact with him now quite a bit. But the PhD project, as Dhananjay was asking, was about, again, so these two projects were more on Drosophila. So Drosophila phototransduction is what I was studying during my PhD. I mean, this is something anecdotal thing that I always share with people, that my master's was much longer than my PhD was. So I spent 4 years doing my master's, and then 3 years for my PhD. And so having worked for 7 years in Drosophila, I really thought that I wanted to do something more translational, and I did want to move out of academia. That was my turning point, where I thought I don't want to be an academic person, especially to see a young PI. So I was one of the first PhD students of Raghu. And when I joined, he was 33, 34 years old. So he was like really, I could see the stress, and that's something which I didn't want, and I didn't even know anything, as Dhananjay was also saying, that you don't know any other career other than academia. And then I thought maybe I wanted to do something more translational, and I chose a lab at UCLA which did gene therapy and was working as mice photoreceptors for their as a model system. And after working there, I mean, it's really funny that I never ever applied for any industry job, although, you know, that's what I had geared up for to begin with. But after my postdoc, I realized how much I missed Drosophila, and then I made this transition back to Drosophila, and now I have been working at this facility for almost 7 years now. So that's my long journey.
It's interesting, there's something about Drosophila that just draws you back. So, I mean, I started working with mice as well, and then flies seemed like a much nicer system. We can debate this with other people later. Hari, later. Cheryl, can you tell us what you started working with, at the start of your research?
Okay, so like Deepti did, I'm going to rewind a little bit more, a little bit further. When I was 15, in the 10th standard, that's when I had decided that I was going to do cancer research at the Tata Memorial Hospital. I was very clear. So if you asked me anytime after that, I knew what I wanted to do. And the reason I'm saying this is because I couldn't imagine a career other than research for myself. And I had narrowed it down to cancer research at Tata Hospital. So when I did my PhD, I was living my childhood dream in many ways. I was doing exactly what my heart wanted to do. And I worked with virus-like particles. I worked in the virology lab with Dr. Robin Mukhopadhyay. Very, very good experience. Worked with virus-like and we looked at encapsulating that in nanoparticles. Did a lot of protein biology work. The reason I did the transition was almost serendipitous, but I wouldn't call that. I would call it providential, not serendipitous. But while I was writing up my thesis, most PhD students will still be doing experiments at that time because you're thinking of publishing an additional paper or doing work for the next PhD student or something like that. Now, in my case, Dr. Robin Mukhopadhyay had just retired. So my lab had shrunk down in size. So there were a lot of logistical issues with actually continuing with experiments while writing the thesis. So Dr. Robin also encouraged me to look at alternatives, something else to do to get a little money, of course, which is very crucial at that point in your career while I was writing my thesis. So who knew what kind of jobs are available for PhD students? I mean, we don't think of anything else besides a postdoc. So I remember seeing one ad in the newspaper about some clinical scientist somewhere. And my brother, who's a voiceover artist who has nothing to do with biology, had worked for a healthcare advertising company. He had lent his voice to some of their work. So it was, by the by, let's just send your CV. So I went for the interview. At the interview, I told my to-be future boss that I have no intentions of staying beyond a year. I said, I want to do this. Things you should never say, but I said it. I said, I only want to stay for about a year and a half, because I have to finish my synopsis and I have to finish my thesis, get my viva done, and I'm heading back into research. So, I mean, by the grace of God, they still took me in after I said something like that in an interview. I finished my viva. My viva took almost a year after my thesis, and I even started applying to postdoc labs. But that is when the realization hit me that if I were to continue in research, and my PhD was not a very easy PhD. I was one of those students who really, really struggled through the entire thing. I think I cried more during those 7 years than I've ever done at any other phase in my life, including infancy. But I just realized that if I went back and became a researcher, although that was what I wanted to do, I would be one among many, many, many brilliant researchers in this country, and we have many. And I had realized by that time, it was a year and a half, that by writing and by doing content, I was in this very interesting place, because it brought my love for science and my love for medicine and my love for biology more than anything, and merged it with my love for writing and my love for expression. And I realized this is a niche that not too many people are in. So let me stick around here. So I've stuck around for about 8 years. Yeah.
Wow. So a couple of things. So one shouldn't, I guess, you don't have statistically significant observations on your interviews, right? I mean, you haven't done this. That would be problematic. But it worked though at that time. Yeah?
It did. And I'm glad I was honest with my boss, because they appreciated the fact that I was upfront and said exactly what my intentions were, though those intentions changed quite dramatically.
And the one thing that I think, I guess Deepti and Hari can agree with, is that Cheryl is aware of how she can contribute well, right? I mean, I didn't know what I could do outside, research or teaching at the time, during the end of my PhD. So yeah. I think that's a very important point. And yeah. So thanks, Cheryl. And Hari?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? How did your research begin?
So if I say something you disagree with, you can feel free to interrupt me, detail, because we have overlapped a lot.
Right.
So I want to start from my PhD. So as Dhananjay mentioned, I started PhD in, I did my PhD in TIFR under Dr. Shubha Tole in Mumbai. And the lab works on neurodevelopment. And during that time, my main work was on mouse genetics. And also we had a moonlighting project on Drosophilist. So like Deepti, I also got to see both of them. And I truly appreciate the ease of doing stuff with fly and the cool genetics you can do with them, which you can only dream of in mice. So it was a lot of learning, but the PhD was okay. It was decent, I would say. And after a long PhD, I moved for similar neurobiology postdoc at Mass General Hospital in Boston under Jeffrey Macklis, and he works on cortical development, again developmental neurobiology, but with slight application more on the translational side, because we were working on neuronal populations that are affected in neurodegenerative diseases. So that gave me some kind of perspective about what kind of diseases are there and what do people look at kind. But still, like as a postdoc, then you're trying to do so many experiments, so many projects, and you get so deep into the weeds that you don't see that how your projects are actually going and is this going to get somewhere to a publication, right? So this is something I think I was a late bloomer. I was very much in the weeds about experiments and doing more and more and more things, thinking that things would work out, but not really taking a step back and seeing like what do academic labs or academic positions want, and is how likely is that my project is going to make somewhere that I will get. But then after like 5 or 6 years or something like that, I started realizing that slowly it sunk in that unless you have, it's very competitive out there. Because till that point, I had no other intention than becoming a PI. I was so set uh, becoming a PI. But then I realized that it doesn't look like it's going to become a great paper. My project is not going to become a great paper. And what skill sets do I really have that I can take outside, right? So started talking to my friends here in Boston, and then Boston is actually a biotech hub in US. So that was lucky for me. So I had friends working who had made that transition. So I talked to them, and then I started applying to some places. So that's when other issue came up, because when you are here, you have to, I mean, it's preferred that you have a green card, because most companies don't want to bet on a green card for you at this outset, right? Because they don't know whether it will work out with you. And if you have a green card, you have a leg up. So then I had to apply for green card, and luckily because of where I was, it was easy because of recommendation and stuff like that. And another lucky break. So I'm saying this is all a series of luck, but in hindsight, I know that a lot of things you could have planned ahead. So I think that is the lesson that I take away from this. In like hindsight, we can see a lot of things. So by luck, my CV went to a co-founder of a startup which I had not heard about. I knew CRISPR very peripherally. I knew the name. We were using it in the lab, but not like in terms of how do you solve a disease problem. So, and he had the founder of that company happened to be a colleague of my boss in the same department, although I had never spoken to him. So he went and spoke to my boss, and my boss gave a good recommendation. So he told me, why don't you come in for an interview? I thought, what the hell? I will just go, because right now I'm not in a position to choose. So I went in and gave an interview, and I really liked the people. They had no neuroscience program at that time, and I like the people. So I thought, okay, I want a job and these are good people. So let's try for a year and see what happens. Worst come to us, at least I would have had a good relation with people, like if nothing else. So by the time my green card came through, and I went join there, and I realized that, oh, there are a lot of things you can do actually. I had a bulb going up in my head at that time. So there are things you can do outside here, and you can actually have fun while doing that. Because then we started an exploratory neuro program there. So CRISPR was in the infancy, and most of the effort in the company, even now I would say, is for ex vivo. That is, you take cells outside, edit and put back into the body for cancer or for blood diseases, because that's the most obvious thing you can do, right? And neuro is and was considered a long shot, but they were willing to bet and invest some amount of money on trying these moonshot kind of things. So kind of I fell into that situation, a lucky break. But the lessons I take back from that is that, like, it's very important during PhD and postdoc to reevaluate. How's your project going? What do people want? Are you likely to get there? I mean, I don't think that is something to be shameful of. I don't think it's reflective of anybody's abilities or anything like that. So, but honestly, we have to reckon with that, right? Like,
I completely agree. In fact, sorry to cut you off, but
Yeah.
you already brought up a couple of important points. I think that is once one comes in as a student, one is not cognizant, or it doesn't even have the wherewithal to know if a project is a good project or a bad project, right? You rely on the PI for that sort of guidance. I mean, risky
Yeah.
projects tests can give you huge rewards, but then, is that what you want to be doing at that stage? These are questions peripherally, but it is good to know that sometimes it's not, you can do the right experiments. The results are telling you not to go there, but you insist. So that can be problematic. The other thing I think is very important that you mentioned is the series of fortunate events. So one should also just latch on to opportunities as they come. It could be a temporary attempt, like Cheryl also said. So I think these are important things that we should pay attention to. Sorry, so you go ahead, going on.
No, I was basically winding up. So, but to add to your point, that is, there are certain events, but I think some of it can be planned also. Like PhD, I completely agree that like you are new to research. Most of us are coming out of college, and the boss has a much significant role to play in guiding you. But while you're postdoc, you have already seen research for 5 or 6 years, and then you know how things go and what is out there. So I think it's you can make some of these, I got lucky, but you can make some of these things happen to you by being thoughtful about it and by being more deliberate about it.
Right.
That's all.
Right. So now I'm going to ask about this critical juncture in a little more detail, where you made the choice to step outside academia. You clearly liked what you were going to do next, right? Like all of you said so. But there must have been other factors that you weighed while you decided to take up that sort of a career, right? I mean, it's like there's family, there's wherever the place, how much job security, things like that. But that's what I can think of at the moment in the position I'm at. What were the factors that you took into account while you made this decision to move out of academia? Did you think about them? What did you think about? So we'll go again with Hari first.
So a couple of things I looked at were, one obviously was that I mean, being in Boston was important to me because it's a hub of biotech industries, and I'm joining a startup which you never know, right? It has a future or not. So my backup plan was that at least there are other companies around here that I can apply to, because at that time it was a pure bet on something which was so far out. So that's why I wanted, and Boston, I had lived in Boston by then for like 6 to 7 years or something like that. And so I was very familiar. It is a nice city. So that was one consideration. And second, then going deeper into what kind of job exactly, right? So although I left academia, I really loved research. So I wanted to be in an area where I'm doing research and getting stimulated by data and stuff like that. So in biotech, now that have been here for like 4 years, I realize there are a couple of kinds of jobs like you in research itself. One is in the early stage research, and the other one is in the preclinical stage of research, where you're trying to get enough data to file an application for clinical trial. So both of these are research jobs in some sense, but I like the preclinical side, the early discovery phase. So that, because this fit that very well, I have stayed. Right. So I think it was a mix of practicality of like, I need a job and I need a job if this goes away kind of thing. Is the ecosystem good, and the nature of the job itself?
But in this situation, you'd agree it's very natural to feel freaked out every day.
Yeah, I mean,
it's an existential dread that hangs over you.
And there is no guarantee, right? But you have to sometimes take that chance and see. And maybe you can make so much backup plans, but you have to take that leap of faith at some point.
That's right. Speaking of leap of faith, Cheryl, do you want to tell us what facts you considered?
So, like I said, one of the big things was realizing that I occupied a very interesting niche where I was. I love biology, right? If you ask anyone that I've worked with, I'm the nerd everywhere I go. I can't help talking about it because this is what we love. We love what we do, which is why we do careers in research. I realized that my field was allowing me to still play to that strength. I was still in the middle of reading papers all day. I was still thinking disease, thinking health, thinking biology, thinking science. So my core love for what I did, I was not far from it. It was just the expression that was different. And I do like writing. I do like talking. I do like figuring out the best way to say something. And I have to say, my favorite thing to do is to take the complex science and to make it simple enough for someone without a scientific background to understand. It's not, you're not dumbing down anything. That's just a stupid phrase. You're just catering to an audience that doesn't have the same vocabulary that someone in the medical field does. And I loved it. So in so many ways, this ticked boxes. Of course, the stress levels are very, very different from what a PhD was all about. My PhD was very stressful. So I enjoyed the peace of mind, the joy, the satisfaction, the fulfillment that I felt here. And of course, because I had picked Bombay, and like Hari said, you know, the city that you're in, that plays a factor. Talking about leaps of faith, Dhananjay knows very well that I'm very active in church and I play the keyboards there and I'm part of music and I help out with kids. So I knew that I could still do all of those things while enjoying a fulfilling career life. So it was hard not to be there.
It was okay. So it's almost like the conditions were right and you just made the leap.
Yeah.
What about you? I mean, do you, things like a two-factor, two-body problem, is that an issue that people face? And what, Deepti, what kinds of, things did you think of when you decided to make the switch? In addition to actually liking what you do and not wanting to be a PI, must have been in some other life-related factors that, made this a more favorable choice?
I don't think I thought about that then, although in retrospect, I think that it was a good decision. But one thing was sure, right after my PhD, I did know that I did not want to go in academic career. Although I wanted to do a postdoc, I like to do research, but what I did not want was to be responsible for some PhD students and postdocs and then constantly slogging for it. And as Cheryl also mentioned, I also have several non-academic interests, and I also want to pursue them and pursue them with equal interest. And so these are the things which I was thinking about. Of course, then because the family and child and all these things also become important, that although I know men, so most of my friends now are academics, because all my work friends at least, and they are exactly similar age and similar situation where they have kids and a spouse and all that. So I see them when I go to their homes, or when I discuss with them, I see them that there is this struggle, and of course they are managing well. So I'm not going to say that my life has I wouldn't say it that way, but the point is that's what was going on in my mind when I started this. And now I am actually pretty happy that the way the career has been very fulfilling for me. I am not constantly worried about, there is always an end to my day, unlike most of my colleagues whose day never ends. And I'll give you an example. One of the colleagues, while I was driving back home, she just told me that I want to discuss with you about a plasmid. And I said, well, I have to give this, I have to go for this webinar. And then she says, feel free to call me after after this, because I am available all the time. And I was like, yeah, sure, I will. But you know how it is in academia, right? So my life is not like that. I do take my weekends off. I do take my holidays off. I do paint with kids, and I do painting classes, and I do a lot of these kind of things which make my life much more fulfilling as compared to how it would have otherwise. And when I was looking for a job, I almost forced me to apply for academic positions, because every time I told that I'm applying for jobs, and they would look at my CV and say that you'll get anywhere you want, you have good papers and you have good, and I did interview at CCMB, University College London, for academic position, just because I felt so much of pressure that, everybody thinks that I'm making a mistake, not to apply at least. So, but I'm pretty sure it's not for me, and I am happy where I am right now.
Yeah.
So that's how my thing. That's what I think.
So and at this point, I'd like to underline your last line. You're happy where you are. Hari and Cheryl, would you agree?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. One important point, and we sort of we have about 10 total minutes. So what are there skills that you picked up in your PhD that you found useful in your current job? And what other skills did you have to pick up outside what you were trained for? Deepti, yours, new skills that you had to pick up, maybe?
Yeah, so as Hari was also saying, CRISPR, so I joined NCBS end of 2013. And when I interviewed for this position, my job title was not as head of fly facility at all. It was of technology scientist who would develop CRISPR in flies, because the month when I was joining, the first paper of CRISPR in flies was not out. So it was really beginning of CRISPR, although by the time I actually joined, it was out, and that's where I began. So this is genome engineering, CRISPR-based genome engineering, something which I learned during the process. But having said that, doing genome manipulations is something which during my PhD and postdoc, I have done a lot. Making lots of transgenics in mice as well as in flies, and all the genetic work, and that helps me a lot during my this job. Yeah.
And so in the terms of things you had to learn of new, what would they be? Things like maybe admin, people handling?
Yes. So yes, people management, budget management, and people management is 3 levels of people management, right? Staff management, people who are users. So we have it's a facility, right? So you have users. So there's a lot of user interactions, as well as the institute, which would involve admin people as well as the faculty, and that kind of thing. And budgets, we make user fees, we change it every now and then, and that goes through a lot of involvement, discussions and calculations. So it's something which I had never done before. So those are the things which are new for me. Not new anymore, but that's what I had learned.
Yeah. What about you, Cheryl? You're in a PR firm, so you must have had to learn a lot, no?
Well, listen, the tag helps, okay? The PhD at the end of my name helps. So there's one thing, if there's one thing I've taken away from the PhD, it's that it makes a huge difference, because of course I'm not surrounded by people with doctorates or necessarily doctors. And when I have to interact, say, with medical teams of pharma companies, and they see my creds, there's respect, and they know that I'm going to get what they're saying. So both ways, it really helps. So the degree is the biggest thing, of course. And like the way we learn to think, right? More than the project that we did during our PhD, it's the ability to think. It's the ability to troubleshoot. Oh my goodness, what a skill that is. The ability, we're all creative, whether we realize it or not, but every time an experiment doesn't work, we're trying to figure out the way it works. We're trying to be creative in our ways. And that's something that for me has come out in an entirely new dimension, but the seed was always there. So yeah.
I mean, so just as a short explainer,
Yep.
say the analytical skills that you look at data, you see what it means, what can be done next.
Yeah, and your scientific
How
temper.
would that be applied to a problem work with at work right now? I mean, so you develop the skill of analysis with cells.
Yeah.
And how does that transfer to your current?
Well, being able to interpret data. I mean, a simple thing that a link between A and B does not imply that A caused B, or that B is necessarily the result of A. It could just be an observation, and being able to see that very clearly. Like, I mean, for us, we know that, right? That's bread and butter for us. But if you see, sometimes newspaper headlines get it very wrong when they tell you that something caused something else when you know that there's no evidence for it. So that being able to look at the science and understand the experiment and understand what it really implied.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Hari. What do you think you learned from PhD that helped in your current position, and what did you have to learn afresh?
Yeah, like Deepti and Cheryl, I think 2 points they have already made. One is the details of the experiments and what you do. Like for me, it is that since I work in a neuro program, so that is a direct translation. And second is, like as Cheryl said, the concept, the idea that you can analyze a problem, break it down, and solve it. I think you learn. I mean, maybe we don't realize it, but we learn it by doing over and over again and sort of absorb it. So and that's been helpful throughout. So that is the direct takeaway. I completely agree with both of you, Deepti and Cheryl. And the other thing I have learned, like Deepti pointed out, is like managing people, both people who work for you or with you, and also people who are above you. And this is something you learn by being thrown into the situation, I guess. And I wish I was better at this when I was in my PhD and postdoc. And the other part is time management, because I'm meeting deadlines. I think these two skills, if I could take back and do my PhD and postdoc, I think I would do much better, because they're like, I think Deepti alluded to the current PIs also. The time is just continuous. It's a continuous event. There is no end start. And like projects, or like you are in the lab throughout, or you go out for dinner, come back and then start again. So I think those are things I would actually take from here and change. And I would also tell all the students or anybody I meet that this is very crucial for the success of your PhD and postdoc. If only we could take this from industry and go back and implement it in academia, it would make a big difference. Yeah.
Thank you. And as a final bit, as we approach the end, are you aware of opportunities where, in your line of work, where that students, postdocs should look into? I mean, and okay, I would like to clarify, as a postdoc, I don't think that, so students are at one stage of training, postdocs are another stage of training. And of course, the opportunities for them will also be different, right? So yeah, all right. So yeah, Hari.
From my experience here, like after I've come in, I've started looking at biotech. When I started looking, also I heard probably this is there even in India, and it's there in most colleges probably now, that there are biotech clubs and there are consulting clubs, like people who are just interested, they come together like the way you are doing, right? Like you are doing this communication thing out of coming together of a set of people who are interested in that and making it happen. And I've seen here people are self-organizing and inviting people to speak. I think that networking is a good path for you to follow. And another thing, being inside, I've realized that many jobs come actually not through, it's actually referrals matter a lot, as opposed to like cold, like getting a CV. So applications are important. I'm not saying nobody looks at application, but referrals matter over above that. So the contacts you make matter. So I think biotech clubs and consulting clubs, this was not something when I was growing up, but I assume now it is a common thing that people can do this. And the specifically also, like in US, I've seen that there are a lot of Indian students coming over for masters and staying on for jobs in like getting into companies and stuff like that. So this is something I've seen change over the time, me being here and now. Yeah.
So like having people who are interested in or even curious about stepping outside academia, getting together, getting to talk to people is crucial.
Yeah, I think self-organizing and then identifying, and many people are actually happy to speak to people, youngsters who have questions about their field, right? And I think it's coming across campuses across the world, and something you can take initiative, and it is like in the era of Zoom, it is low cost,
Right.
right? You can, yeah.
Right. And Cheryl, what can you suggest opportunities that people can look at right now or places where they can find them?
Sure. So I think one way to approach it is to, if you're looking at pharma, look at the corporate communications team in pharma companies, because very often they would, not every, and I have, if I'm being very honest, it's not like there are a lot of opportunities. Sometimes it's just about someone giving you the chance, and then you realize, and then you try and make yourself indispensable in as much as that's possible. But definitely corporate communications teams at pharma companies is one place to look at, because they do have options there. There are medical, if you know of any advertising firm or public relations firm that looks at health and at medical clients, then that's your route in. So it'll take a little bit of looking through with a magnifying glass, but there are opportunities, and someone needs to give you the chance. That's also important.
Right. Deepti, what do you think?
Yeah, so as Hari was saying, that networking is very important, and also the recommendations, or sometimes positions like mine are created because they have found some person who would be a good match for the position. Also knowing the current scenario where funds are reducing, and high cutting edge technology is expected. My thinking, and also, I mean, I think this is in line that more such facilities should come up in India, where there is a centralized facility to do something. It can be microscopy, or it can be mass spec or fly facility or whatever, for a bunch of institutes which are close, close physically, geographically close. And but these opportunities, as Cheryl was also saying, they just, whenever they come, they need to be grabbed. And and because of that, networking becomes very important. Especially in my situation, this is exactly what had happened, is that I was looking for this, for positions, and I was asked whether I would like to do such a thing, like develop CRISPR. And I said I could try it for maybe 6 months or a year. And that's how I started. But then, because I really liked the work, I stayed on, and it's been 7 years. So, I mean, this is my experience, that this you need to keep looking and keep talking to people, to peers, as well as people who actually would know about these things. And that's how you find these opportunities.
Okay. And I think that's all we have the time for. Would you like to add any like bit of wisdom for listeners now or in the future? If there's anything you'd like to add, keep at it. Know what you want to do. Follow it. Yeah. Guys.
Yeah, Hari, you wanted to say?
No, you speak. I was
Yeah.
thinking actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think knowing what you want helps, certainly, because I mean, for me, what I feel that the biggest issue with my own, I mean, what I have learned through my career is that I knew what I don't want, but I did not know what I wanted. And that kind of slowed down things for me. I was applying for things. I also applied for facility management in Columbia University for microscopy, for example, or things like that, which could have been a good opportunity as well. But, I was kind of applying to all sorts of things with no clear-cut idea what I wanted to do. And also, although I knew I didn't want it to be in academia, just by pressure from my, people who knew me, I also applied for a lot of academic positions. So, which kind of wasted my time, I would say. So if you clearly, develop some kind of insights either during your PhD or postdoc, where you will fit, and this kind of webinar that Dhananjay you are organizing, it helps in that, and so you get some ideas what you want to do, and then slowly go towards it.
Okay. Thanks, Deepti. Cheryl, you're full of wisdom. One small bit, if you don't mind.
May I say two short ones?
Please, please.
Okay. One is, don't take your PhD postdoc results to heart. Don't take the disappointments of a PhD or a postdoc to heart. Really, having an experiment that doesn't work doesn't mean that you are bad or your hands are necessarily at fault. Sometimes it's the experiment. So that's one, because don't take it personally. And the second one is, if you do find something else that you love and you find it more exciting than research, then don't be afraid to change. It's fulfilling. And what you learn during your research will stay with you for the rest of your life. That's not going anywhere.
Hari?
Yeah. I was saying, both Cheryl and Deepti mentioned, also we have to consider that right now we are in pandemic. So especially people who are sort of making the transition now, it's because I have friends who are applying for jobs right now, like to faculty positions here. US as such, the money keeps up and down, and probably it is there, true for other countries too, and especially pandemic has made it terrible. Like people have stopped hiring, and many of them are going through, like I think Cheryl alluded to, like personally blaming that maybe I could have done something different. Maybe unfortunately it had to happen when I was applying, kind of thing. But one thing is like these are things which happen once in a lifetime, and like something it's beyond your control. Now, I like the disappointment is valid, but we also have to see like what can we come out of that, right? Like, and you have lot of skills. All of you have lot of skills which you don't realize, and you can, like Cheryl, I think point out, you can make a fulfilling career outside. It is just that you have to be confident in yourself and actually start looking at outside what you have been told, that, like Deepti said, like pressure to apply in academics. It is a little bit of hard work because the other one is a default path. But once you see outside, you will see that there are a lot of uses for your skill. And especially, I think it is important when you have these life-altering events happening outside,
right,
that you are more flexible in your brain, that, okay, I can try something else.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to attempt to summarize this. I think just for the audience, we've met some accomplished people. They were in the same boat we're in right now. They had similar experiences. They made a choice, and that right now it was an active choice, and they're happy where they are at the moment. So it's in order to allow serendipity or providence to work, you need to be aware of what the opportunities are, pick up on them, and follow the lead at least a little bit. If you don't attempt it, you're getting nothing. So I think that's the end of this session. I could chat with you guys for a very long time, but for now, because we're limited on time, and you guys are busy, thank you so much. I really truly, deeply appreciate your participating in this. And hopefully, people will benefit from this. Again, thanks to NCBS for allowing this to happen. Thank you to CCMB and participants from there, and the communications office that is actually handling all these things. We don't have any questions at the moment. And if there are questions ever, again, you can you can tweet at us here at Bubble Peking or email us, and we'll see what we can do. So with that, thank you very much, Dr. Hari Padmanabhan, Dr. Cheryl Travasso, Dr. Deepti Trivedi, and that's it for today.
Thank you, Dhananjay.
Thank you. It was our pleasure, I'm sure.
Thank you. Nice meeting both of you.
Yeah, likewise, likewise.
Yeah.
Great. I'm closing the call. The video will be available on YouTube for till YouTube is there, basically. So goodbye and have a good evening.
Thank you.